Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic medium. Thank you for joining me today. Today I took your questions. So I asked for questions, political questions that is, on my community page. When you go to my main YouTube page, you click on my name, you'll see a lot of banner and with some topics at the top. One of them would be community. And you can see posts there. You can also see playlists and see different types of videos if you're interested in other things other than politics. But today we're going to be answering your political questions. I ask my spirit guides while I'm talking to you on this video to answer those questions. And here we go. So my first question is from Sweetie Darling Lulu, which you gotta love that name. And if Sweetie Darling Lulu is a woman, she says, Zelensky seems to be upset with Biden and NATO. Does he truly believe that we aren't doing enough? I understand he could be angry and exhausted, but yes, he's angry and exhausted. And as I go into Zelensky's energy, I see that he kind of has a little bit of magical thinking about the West. He believes that we have powers that we really don't have. I think that he believes that Biden and Britain, you know, the leaders can really do more than they can do. Okay, number one. Number two, he's desperate. Let's just face it. The man is desperate. He's been living in God knows where, under something, under a subway somewhere, and he's watching his country get bombed and innocent people are killed. So he's absolutely desperate. I would be worried if he wasn't upset. I would be worried if he wasn't emphatic about what they need. So I think it's good for him to go on the airwaves and to do these videos. However, it is very risky for him to continue to do this. They could geolocate him through this. And then, of course, we know that one of the Republicans, I forget who it is now, took a screenshot during the actual meeting when he was told not to. Everybody was told in Congress not to do that because it could harm his safety if that got out. And actually, during the video conference, he took the screenshot and tweeted it, which is just unconscionable. Between him and Lindsey Graham saying that we should put out a hit on this guy, I think the Republicans are really enemies of the state. And this is for entertainment purposes only. So now my next question is from Melissa Carpenter. And thank you guys all for your message, your questions, because they're really good. Her question is, do we need to be concerned with China or any other country which could pose a nuclear threat besides Belarus? Okay, first of all, I do not see an actual nuclear bomb. Okay, now potentially we have nuclear fallout because of you know, some reactor's been hit, but I don't see them using a nuclear bomb. But number two, yes, we have concern, and this is something I don't really want to do a whole video on this right now, but I am concerned about more countries entering the fray. Okay, you know how we can't control our congressmen. You know, people just are going to say what they're going to say, do what they're going to do. Well, this is how it is with countries. They may not fall in line. Okay, so right now I'm thinking about India because I think there's 1,200 students still stuck in Ukraine in this one university or building, and they're not all Indian, but quite a few of them are. And there's only a matter of time before these countries get their backup about this, right? So all you need is one leader to get their backup and say something or do something. It's fraught. We're fraught right now. Also, Putin is also saying that just by supplying, you know, medicine or food or war items such as planes or bombs or ammunition, that's an act of war. So Putin is saying that's an act of war, and it's just one more little step to where he says that was an act of war and I'm going to attack this country for it. Okay. So yes, we should be concerned. Concern doesn't help anything. Worrying doesn't help anything. None of this is going to fix anything. I'm doing this because I understand that everybody is worried and we're concerned and we're scared. We want answers. And sometimes we feel like hearing answers makes us feel better. But I would also say that I get these answers and they may not be what you want to hear. So take that as a cautionary tale going forward. I do feel like other countries are going to get involved. I mean, Belarus is certainly involved. Putin is now sourcing mercenaries from Syria. Putin is desperate. He's absolutely beyond desperate. He's the worst kind of cornered animal desperate. And he will lash out in any way possible. Now, the only reason why I don't think there's going to be nuclear, actual firing of a nuclear bomb or missile is because it takes more than Putin, thank God, to do it. So it's just like when we had Trump as our leader and he wanted to do all these things and our generals were like, no, no, no. Okay, so Putin actually has a few generals that are still thinking clearly. And I just paused because they showed me something. I think there's a message. I think there's a post or comment question about this topic. So I'm going to go on and I'll address it in this next question. But yes, we definitely think other countries are going to get involved. And I think that Putin wants World War III. I've said this before. Putin wants World War III. That's what he wants. I don't think he's going to exactly get it. We need to understand that even though the energy suggests World War III, it doesn't have to manifest the way we think. We think too linearly, linearly, like linear. And God knows, spirit is not linear. It's not. So this could manifest in a different way. You may see a headline about it. You may hear people talk about it, but I don't think it's going to manifest the way World War II did or World War I. I think we're going to get awfully close. And I think potentially we could get to a real standoff, a real crisis inflection point. Okay. But I don't think we're going to go over it. That's a lot of energy. Okay. Sam the Reiki Master, thank you for your question. She asks, will Boris Johnson remain as the UK Prime Minister? Because before the UK crisis, he was under a lot of pressure from the UK people. Yeah, he was close, right? He was close to being jettisoned. The British people are still not happy with him. They're not happy with him at all. He's seen as a buffoon. Seems harsh. He's I'm looking at the energy. I don't think anything is going to happen right now because we're all like literally, up to our necks in worry and concern. And I think everybody needs to just kind of stay put. But after this is over, I don't see him remaining. You know what? I think you guys might get a prime minister that is not a white dude or a white woman. I mean, and I don't know what I see. It's just, I don't think this person is white. I don't know what nationality, I don't know what culture they are, but I feel like you may break that mold, which would be fantastic. And it's a long time coming and it's going to be very, very healing. I mean, it's going to be like Barack Obama in the United States. I mean, it was healing, but then all our nut jobs went nuts. So there's that to look forward to. Okay, so White Rabbit says, will Brexit ever be reversed and will England join the EU again? No. The answer is no, but also it's not that easy. Brexit is not going to be reversed, but I think that because Brexit seems to be a third rail, nothing could touch that. So I do think that, you know how England, from what I understand, they're telling me right now, England had to create some new trade deals, or they had to do something, right, to patch together some things that got canceled when Brexit happened. And I understand what they're saying right now is that England will get closer to being in Brexit than they are now, but not in Brexit. I hope that makes sense to you. People give me a lot of grief for saying the wrong thing, or I'm actually channeling spirit right now. So don't shoot the messenger. That's all I would say. Okay, about the amount of, her second question is about the amount of sanctions imposed on Russia right now. What does Putin feel about it? And will the sanctions be enough to stop him from doing further damage in Ukraine? Okay, great question, dear. Putin is mad as hell. Basically, he's mad as hell. He's also been shielded. He didn't know. He didn't know his military was inept. He didn't know his military didn't have the heart. The very first video I did on this, Spirit said that there's no heart in this military, and the military is going to be inept. He didn't know that. He didn't know that his military weapons were not up to grade. He thought that the money had been spent on the military, and indeed it hadn't. It had been funneled off to yachts and whatnot by the oligarchs. So he didn't know. He didn't know any of this. Okay, so he went in thinking he was the big bad guy and found out that he's been lied to. The sanctions are not going to be enough. He's absolutely out of his mind with anger and rage. He has staked his entire dignity, is the word they're telling me. His dignity is based on routing Ukraine. So no, that nothing is going to stop him. The only thing that's going to stop him is something that stops him. He does not care about the people. He doesn't care about them starving or dying. He doesn't care. He just needs to save face at this point. That's what he needs to do. So now where the sanctions matter is because the sanctions have really upended the oligarchs' worlds. Now, of course, not 100%, but enough. Impacted them enough that they're ready for this to be over. Right now, you can't even use a Visa or a MasterCard or American Express in the country of Russia. You can't, there's no banks, your ruble is worth 1 cent, right? So the Russian people are really experiencing a terrible time, and they will start protesting more. And this is the beginning of the end of Putin. This is the beginning of the end of communist Russia, period, end of story. I promise you. Or the spirit guides are not telling me that they promise you. It's ugly, but it's going to be over. I don't know when, you guys. It could be this. It's longer than it needs to be. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's a lot longer than it needs to be. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. That's why we've all got to take care of ourselves so that we can get through this. Let me ask them about regime change. They just said regime change. Well, we all know what that means. Bye-bye, Putin. I don't know where he goes. I cannot ask. They get real touchy. They get real touchy when I ask if somebody's going to die, because I asked if Trump was going to die every day for 6 months. So they think it's a character flaw that I have. Anyway, just let's leave it at that, because there's more questions that address this, I think. Yeah. The thing that her question is actually is what's going to stop him from doing further damage to Ukraine, which I think is a good question. The thing that's going to stop him is his own military, is the lack of his military, is the lack of his ability, the lack of his weaponry to work. The tanks, everything is falling apart. What isn't falling apart is being sabotaged by his soldiers who don't want to fight. And meanwhile, on the Ukrainian side, I saw a video of a woman who looked to be my age, learning how to even put a strap, a shoulder strap on a rifle. She's an economist. And, everybody has taken up arms. So this is what you're up against. It's incredible. The will of the Ukrainian people is incredible, and they're not going to be stopped, okay? So that's what's going to stop him from doing further damage. Now, of course, NATO and the allies are all helping as well, to the degrees that they can. I think that you're going to find some of the non-NATO countries, they're already very nervous, and I think that you might find that they may get engaged in some way. Not in a full-out war. I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm just saying, again, it seems to me like we're going to come right up to this crisis point where it could go over and then it stops. But do that a couple of times, and it's going to be very like a nail biter for us and for them. Victoria says, the Georgia case against Trump, will it move forward? And then she says, yes, it's going to move forward. And will he be found guilty? And will the outcome result in him never being able to hold office again? Okay, number one, Trump is never going to hold office again. Just everybody hear my words. Trump is never going to hold office again. He can barely hold his bladder. Okay, he's never going to hold office, period. You don't have to worry about that. Really, what we really need to be worried about is him acting behind the scenes right now as basically, I don't know the word they just said. It just came and went very quickly. But basically as a instigator, right? He's an instigator. He's still creating havoc. That's what we need to worry about. So the other question was, will the GA case against Trump, the Georgia case against Trump, go forward? Yes, it's going to go forward. Will he be found guilty? I heard no. It's complicated. It's very complicated. And I'm just the messenger. Don't tell me why. I don't know. Susan is just as mad as you are. I get mad at them all the time. Now, welcome to my world. Okay? So they say there's something with a prosecutor. There's something with lead prosecutor. There could be a technicality. It makes me mad. But remember, guys, if you haven't seen the video, there's 100 archers that have arrows loaded in their bow and arrow, and they're going to shoot it at Trump. 95 miss. 95 miss. 5 hit their mark. 3 take him down. So you need to be expecting 95 misses here, okay? Just get used to it. Forewarned is forearmed. All we need are 5 arrows to make it and 3 to take him down. That's all. All I need is 1. You know what I mean? Yes, it's a travesty of injustice. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're right. I agree with you. But we just have to take our wins where we get them and deal with the rest of this mess later. You know, that's like passing laws and you know, that's stuff that we need to do within our Constitution, within our Congress and our Senate. Also, I would just say that I'm reading the energy right now, and all of this is free will. Putin has free will. He could wake up tomorrow. All those beautiful prayers that you guys are saying, all that beautiful white light you're sending him, literally might bend him to the will of the light. He might wake up tomorrow and say, I'm done, right? Anything can happen. I'm simply reading the energy, and I'm reading the most likely thing that's going to happen that around the energy of that person, okay? Sue F says, will Susan Hoffinger actively and aggressively try to indict T and NYC? I hear yes. And she uses very specific words, actively and aggressively. I heard yes, and she did use try, which, you know, this is how the question should be formed. I can't tell you all the time, but I can definitely tell you she will try. Yes. GKR said, okay, so this question is about the the woman basketball player that was in Russia playing in the off season, that reportedly, allegedly had some sort of vape cartridges of hash oil in her luggage. Her question is, what's the overall fate of her? This woman was arrested in Moscow, and so the fate basically is that she is Russia is treating her like, believe it or not, this is the words they're using, don't shoot the messenger. They're treating her like an enemy combatant. So basically what they're going to do is use her as a political chess to trade her. They'll use her. This is Russia. They'll use her to get what they want, whatever that is. You know what I mean? I mean, whatever that is at the moment. They're going to keep her in their back pocket. Let's put it that way. Eventually, she's going to make it out of there. But it's going to be a harrowing time for her, unfortunately, because they're going to, Russia has already broken so many Geneva Convention rules and so many crimes against humanity and war crimes. And look, what's one more? You know what I mean? That's what they're going to do. Nancy says, will the Build Back Better bill be passed in 2023? Yes, but I think it might have a different name. It might be in a slightly different shape, meaning there may be some things taken out, or it may be adjusted a bit. I see it narrowly passing. Yes. We're still having problems apparently in the Democratic Party next year. So irritating. Okay, I say that because that narrowly passed. Like, I feel like there's a lot of work that has to be done to get the Democrats together. Okay, Ann B says, yes, so she says, will seeing all the suffering going on in Ukraine make the divide here in the U.S. come together? In other words, will Ukraine bring us together? Yes, absolutely. Ukraine has already brought us together. It's bringing the entire world together. It's bringing countries together. It's bringing people together. It's really doing that. It's amazing that it's doing that, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. And then she says, will President Zelensky remain safe for his people? I've talked about this before. He is okay. Well, good. I'll take that. He's got angelic, they said angelic guidance is what they just said to me. He has angelic guidance. He's being protected. I didn't get that last time. Right. If he's not protected, if something happens to Zelensky, Ukraine could really fall. He seems to have taken on the energy of the statesman of the whole country. I mean, I know he's the president, but that doesn't always mean, right, that the president is supported by the people. This man seems to be revered in a way that it like the general to his troops. Basically, if the general goes down, the troops get all chaos breaks loose, right? So he's being protected. That's good news. Janet Neal says, right, why hasn't the Russian Air Force shown up in force? Is it a paper tiger because of corruption? Does that apply to their army too? Yes, absolutely. And this is what I think I said earlier. I don't remember because I'm basically channeling this. What I'm getting right now is that, wow, they're talking quite a bit. So it turns out that there's airplanes on the ground in Russia that they're not using. They don't have parts. They're missing parts. Can you even believe that? They're missing parts. That's embarrassing. Oh my God. So when these analysts say, oh, well, Russia has so many more planes that they could be flying. They're not flying for real reasons. They're not flying because Putin's being nice or that Putin's holding back something. Believe me when I say right about now, he would literally throw anything at Ukraine, anything. I mean, he would. So I feel like what's happening is they're taking these planes and they're junking some to put in planes. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're taking parts from some planes to repair planes. So if they have 50 planes on this airfield that are supposedly ready to go, there may be 20 that are flyable. That's a big deal. I didn't know that. Yes, it applies to their army. That also applies to their army. Somebody in another question mentions Potemkin. I'll get to that in a minute. Potemkin Air Force, and I'll explain that in a minute. What else do I want to say about that? The thing that you need to understand too is that I mentioned this a little bit while ago. The Russian soldiers just don't want to do this. Okay, they don't want to do this. They're 18, 19 years old. They don't even know what they're doing. They've been told that they had, in many cases, they didn't even know they were going to war. In other cases, they were told, go across the border or be shot or prison. Listen, that doesn't necessarily make you your fighting force, rah-rah, right? I mean, they're going to run for the hills the first minute they get, and this is what's been happening. But what I want to say about that is Russia is now conscripting. That's an interesting word that they use. Conscripting these other, from Syria, because we also know there seems to be intelligence that suggests that Russia is paying mercenaries. But mercenaries are not a reliable army, okay? They're not a reliable army. They live from one war to the next by staying alive. And if they're outnumbered by a crazy, really motivated enemy, that's not worth the money to them. Okay, so the mercenaries are not really reliable. So now they're going into other countries like Syria and they're conscripting people. That's what they just said to me. So that's where they're going to try to boost their troops. Her second question is, so it's a long question, but whether or not, okay, so what she's asking is, how did our congressmen and senators get bought by Russia? Was it gambling? Her question is, to what extent did gambling addiction play a factor in the apparent capture of so many American politicians by Russia or other intelligence agencies? So her direction of this is gambling. It's, listen, Putin is KGB. Anything he can get on you, being gay, being a gambler, a honeypot, meaning sending over somebody that you have an extramarital affair with, being into any kind of thing that would be illegal, all those things are on the board, all of them. And if they can't, this is something they've said last year, if they can't get something on you, they will make it up. Okay, they will literally Photoshop it, make it up. And so I don't know to what extent gambling specifically is, but I do know it's one of the things that they look for. It's the same thing when you go to get they're telling me a security clearance, right? I mean, they look at your credit, because if you have bad credit, then you're like, somebody could turn that against you. You would need the money, in other words. You see what I'm saying? All right. Jackie Ogle says, will Putin remain in power long? Will his inner circle attempt a coup or the oligarchs take matters in their own hands? The oligarchs are absolutely freaking terrified of him, with good reason, I'm hearing. I want to talk about this for just a minute. He seemed, when I went into his energy, and I try not to go into his energy, I really try. When I went into his energy earlier today, he has this group that protects him, it's not a big group. It's not an army. It's like a few people. It's a handful of people. And he trusts them. And so somebody would have to get through that to get to him. I don't think, when people say he's got an oligarch that he's holding captive, I was going to say that he doesn't, but I think he does. He did it. He did it to, right. Yeah. He did it to, and he's doing it to intimidate the other oligarchs, but then they just showed me, you know, that oligarch that committed suicide, quote unquote? That was also a message. Keep, be careful. Be careful, because I have, one thing that Putin has is he has his own money. Okay, so he's got billions of dollars. He knew that this was a likelihood, so he started hoarding cash. So Putin himself has quite a bit of money. And if Putin needs to pay a debt, he can pay it. So if Putin needs to hire a hired hand or an assassin or something like that, he can do that. He can afford to do that, okay? So he still has power. He still has the ability to reach out and touch somebody. So the oligarchs are terrified. Will he remain in power long? In power. Let me change that to, will he remain in power in Russia? No, he's not going to remain in power long. I said earlier, I think I said May, June. It might be June. You just never know what that guy's going to do. Okay. I mean, I know that he seems mad, but he is diabolical. And if he thinks that he can come to the peace table and work out some kind of deal and save what he can, he's going to come back. He's never going to forget. He's going to come for us. And I don't mean nuclear. I don't mean, don't everybody freak out. I mean, he doesn't forget. He's going to make our life difficult in some way. So he may be thinking right now that I might live another 15 or 20 years. And would I rather look like I've lost face in Ukraine today and spend the next 20 years of my life getting back at the United States? You see what I'm saying? This is kind of what I think he's thinking right now. And look what he's done already. He's affected our election. He's turned us against each other. I mean, he's done more damage to America than World War III could do, unless it was nuclear. He's done a heck of a lot of damage to us. And to Britain, and Australia, and to Canada. This has been war for a long time. We've just never said it. So now I think he's trying to decide, it might be worth it to me. Because also what else he's noticing is now he knows without a doubt who he can trust and who he can't. So if he works a peace deal with Ukraine, expect a whole lot of people to be falling off balconies in the next 6 months. Because they will. You might want to also expect some of those oligarchs to seek shelter, citizenship, like literally. I mean, yeah, they're terrified of him. I don't know. Does that answer your question? I think so. So when I go into his energy, I don't know what he's thinking about how to play this. He's thinking, should I just take what I can of Ukraine? I've mentioned before, one of the things on the table is that they could split Ukraine in half. It's not my idea. Don't yell at me. It is on the table. That's what Putin would take. Will Ukraine take it? I don't think so. Will the West make them take it? Possibly. If the West and Britain and all these countries stop supporting this war, Zelensky may have to take what he can take. Okay, that's just the bottom line. Just what Spirit is saying. So it's very interesting what's happening right now with Putin. If he can get control of his anger and his egomaniacness, he may he may pull back, but it's going to be June. He's going to bomb. He's going to use every bomb he has. He's going to use every plane he has. He's going to inflict the most damage that he can. He's not going to leave before he can inflict as much damage as he can. Okay. Ishump says, what can we do as a collective to energetically to help Ukraine, its people, and the Russian people who do not want this war? Great question. You can send them love. You can send them light. You can lift them up. You can lift Putin up. You can send him light. You can send him love. You can see him as peaceful. You can take a fire hose and put out the fire that is in his energetic body, right? By doing that, you're putting out the fire and you're putting out his anger. So why don't we all just hold an energetic fire hose on him and put out this fire? So all those things work. And if you want to do it in a group, that's great. If you don't do it in a group, you still have the ability to help because there's so many of us doing that. There's so many of us doing that. You can also lift up Zelensky. You can lift up Biden. You can lift up the Ukrainian people. You can lift up the Russian people. You can lift up the first thing I said in the first video I did about this, and it just came out of my mouth. I obviously I'm channeling this, but the first thing I said was, I see the Russian soldiers laying down their rifles and arms and walking away. And this is what's happening. So see it, picture the Russian soldiers stopping, walking away from the war. Picture Russian fighter pilots signaling surrender and asking on a radio to land in Poland. Why not? Why not picture these things? Why not hold this in our consciousness, okay? It's much better than wishing someone dead, believe me. And it'll lift you up. If you lift others up, that lifts you up. So that's a really good thing to do. Deb B. Kane says that she can't stand the injustice of the governors of Florida or Texas. Me either. Which one would your guides pick first to be taken away from public service first? I see right now, energetically, DeSantis is likely to step down. He is going to be running for president. He may step down from Florida. You know what's interesting is I see that building. Do you remember the building in Florida that collapsed? The condo? Somehow that comes back to bite him. I mean, it could just be in public opinion. I don't know how, but these things have a weird way of coming back to get you. Like if you pulling on something really hard and it snaps and then it comes back and smacks you. That's kind of what I see happening to DeSantis. Something is going to come back and smack him in the head. Abbott, the governor of Texas, God, I just heard he's going to win. I hope that changes, but I heard he's going to win. That's right. Right. So Beto is running against Abbott. This makes me sick. But I've never seen Beto winning. I wish I could change that. I literally have started envisioning Beto winning. Maybe if we all envision Beto winning governor of Texas, we can actually change the outcome, right? Maybe what I'm predicting doesn't have to happen. Maybe we can change the outcome. So I'm going to just try my best because I don't know. Abbott being governor again is just going to be terrible for Texas. Linda Walker says, how many people in our government are being paid by Russia? Well, they're probably not being paid by Russia now because the ruble's worth 1 cent. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because to turn your question around a little bit, think about it like this. How are the people that have been paid by Russia going to act now that they're not being paid by Russia? That's the question, right? How about all of these campaigns that were being financed by Russia, that now we're going into the midterms, may not have the financing they once had? But I need to say something else about that, but I want to go back and I won't forget. Okay. She wants to know how many people. I don't know if I can give you a number. In all of government, I mean, all of our government, not just the House, not just the Senate, but the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense. I mean, that's a big thing, all of our government. Instead, I'll give you a percentage. They just said as many as 10%. Don't shoot the messenger. As many as. So it doesn't mean 10%. It means as many as. And this is also in the past, not currently. God, 10% of our really? The minimum is 6. The minimum is 6. The minimum is 6%. But as many as 10. God, that's frightening. Literally frightening. Okay. I was going to say something else about that, and it did go. How many people in our government? Oh, I wanted to say that something else we should all sort of pay attention to is when Russia becomes not the power that it was, who's going to fill that vacuum? And I'm already telling you, it's not just China, okay? Israel is doing quite a bit on its own in different ways. Because power's power, right? And countries need to make sure that they wield power so they feel safe. So I feel like there's quite a few countries that are kind of elbowing to get in there and make sure that they have their sovereignty through power. Okay, so 2 more questions. Susan Garland says, Do the spirits feel that Zelensky is being foolish posting from his office in Kyiv? Yeah, I feel like he's foolish. Susan feels like he's foolish. But I honestly cannot tell you if he's protected because he's going to be a martyr or if he's protected because he's going to live. I cannot tell. He's protected. This religious energy, this angelic energy around him is so intense right now that it almost makes me feel like he's transitioned. It's that strong. I mean, he's protected. I don't think Spirit thinks he's foolish. I think Spirit thinks he's a hero. Oh, I lied. There's more questions. I just had to scroll down. Okay, hold on. Margell says, will Iowa get rid of Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst in the midterms? Well, Iowa get rid of Chuck Grassley. I'm getting a no right now. It's a little bit early to tell, but I'm getting a no. You have to understand, some of these people that could replace him. No, that's in the primary. Chuck Grassley. I'm hearing no. I got to just tell you. And then Joni Ernst. Quite possibly. Joni Ernst could be outed, but it's close. Very, very close. Okay, Sue F says, okay, wait. I think I already answered that question. This is a good question. Carla B says there is a new law invalidating forced arbitration clauses for victims of sexual assault and harassment. So there's a new law saying you can't force someone into arbitration. Okay, you have to go to court, I guess. It's effective retroactively. She wants to know, will this lead to some companies going bankrupt? I think it's going to lead not to companies going bankrupt. I think it's going to lead to companies being bought by other companies. They'll be weak and they'll be bought. I don't see anybody going bankrupt, but I see mergers. And then Deborah Clark says, does Carol Blood have a chance to win the governor's race in Nebraska? I'm hearing no. That doesn't mean you shouldn't support her. You know, for some of these people that aren't going to win, they still have expenses. You know, they still tried, and we have to, if we don't support these people that run and rack up a bunch of expenses, then the next time nobody's going to run because they don't want to be stuck with these expenses, and they don't want, you know what, you understand what I'm saying? So I have the same problem here in Texas, God knows. But I finally decided, look, they deserve $25 from me just having the guts to run. You know what I mean? Because I'm not doing it, right? So I want to support those people because it takes a lot. It asks a lot to run. But right now I'm getting no. That could change. So here's the question that I've already answered. LJ Shannon says, in the eyes of the angelic realm, is it wrong to wish that Putin would be killed? Yes, it's wrong. She says, I watch the atrocities going on and think he's a rabid dog who needs to be taken out. But then I think, well, aren't I supposed to be loving towards all beings? Yes, we are. I just talked about that, how you lift him up. You have to lift him up. If nothing else, if you don't want to lift him up, then put the fire out with water. If you don't want to touch him, if you don't want to get close to him, which I understand, get your fire hose and stand in the back and, you know, put it out that way. And if you don't want to do that, then lift up Zelensky. Lift up, you know, the people that you do want to. You don't have to do anything to Putin. You can leave him alone. I think I already answered this. Susan Robinson, will Zelensky and his family stay safe? I know he's already had, I don't know how many close calls, right, with the assassination attempts. I don't know, 3 or 4. It's by a hair, you guys. The guy's safe by a hair. I'm telling you. I see a building being damaged. I see near misses, lots of near misses, and if that's the case, the man is angelically, protected. And Anita Fonte, she says, and this is the last question. Woohoo! She says, hi, Susan. Hello, Anita. What do your guys see for NYC as crime is high? We need more peace and love here in NYC. And new mayor Eric Adams is trying. I don't know, dear. I see more as the summer comes. I see more crime. It's just not easy to stop crime. It's not like, you get a new person or a new police chief, or you put more troops out or patrols out. It's not that easy. It's a lot of, the Spirit's telling me it's a lot of factors, right? It's people not having jobs, people not having hope. You know what? Hope is a big thing. If you have hope for the future, you're not as likely to go out and rob somebody, right? When you have no hope, then who cares? So I just feel like this is going to be a little bit longer and harder to solve than you might want it to be. I do think it gets solved. I do see it getting solved. I do see the crime getting better, but I think it might get a little bit worse before it does, unfortunately. So take good care of yourself. Everybody, wherever you are, take good care of yourselves, okay? We've got a whole lot longer of this. And in the middle of this, we have the January 6th Commission. We've got indictments coming. We have a lot of things coming at us this summer. They just showed me, think of like the O.J. Simpson trial times 20, right? So there's 20 things going on that are that riveting, that are that, where it just takes the air out of the room. So we need to take really good care of ourselves so that we can get through this, because we all need to vote like our lives depend on it. And because a lot of people are getting thrown off of the voter rolls, and that, Texas voted early. We have already voted our primary, one of the very first ones. And I don't know, 1,000 or more people showed up at the polls and they weren't on the list, even though they had a card and therefore they couldn't vote. So we have to be very proactive right now. Right now is the time when you can take the action. You can go out and register people. You can talk to your friends. You can all go to a site on your state and make sure that you're registered. Almost every state has this. So check your voting right now. Get prepared. Spend this time getting prepared. Take really good care of yourselves. And we'll be in touch soon right here on this channel. By the way, I do have a Patreon membership. I'll leave it in the description. That's my dog. In the description below, I talk mostly about spiritual matters on my membership channel. And just take good care of yourselves, okay? We're going to get through this.